It seems when I made my video yesterday and I posted it on a Facebook group of hunters, a couple of young guys had gotten triggered and were upset because I told a story in the beginning of the video how we never used safety lines or anything. We just kind of fell out of our tree stands and climbed back in them. That seemed to trigger a couple of them. I even had one that said, "Oh, that's a complete lie," and I thought that was quite interesting. Things have changed so much in 30 years. I don't think the younger generation knows. I think the younger generation, to be quite honest, most of them, I'm not saying all, but most of them are a bunch of pussies. And I'm sure my father thought the same of me, and his father thought the same as his. It seems like with each generation, we seem to get softer. We don't seem to be stronger. And with, kids not having fathers and mothers raising kids, I mean, it's no wonder what's happening to society before our eyes. And it's actually kind of sad. Now, understand, I'm 57 years old, going to be 58 in June. And as this guy said, he's an old man. And I thought for a minute and thought, well, if I truly am an old man and you really believe I'm an old man, then what kind of person does that make you to be so disrespectful to an elder? It really makes you a piece of shit, actually. But I thought I'd make a few videos on some of the things that happened in my life the last 30 years. And I don't know, maybe you'd enjoy them. Maybe you'd see how times were different and how we were. Now, understand these videos. Love my father to death, love my mother to death. They're no longer with us. And they were not perfect. My father was an alcoholic, worked as a factory worker. My mother worked as a janitor at the school board. They weren't high educated people. I mean, I think my dad was lucky to have grade 8. He was a crane driver, drove in a crane up high, and took care of steel off of trucks. I don't think my dad liked his job very much. I think he hated it. My dad was afraid of heights, but yet here he was a crane driver because I guess it was a better job than being on the floor. My dad would come home from work after 8 hours, and he literally would work another 8 hours around the house, from gardening, um, fall time fishing, hunting, whatever, is what he would do. He would offset his bills with fishing and hunting, is what would go on. So everything with my dad literally had to be with saving money on bills, feeding the kids, or whatnot. There was not much room for entertainment back in those days. We weren't a rich family. Oh, we did okay. I'd say we were middle income, but my dad and my mother worked hard to maintain that middle income for their kids. Back in those days, 30 years ago, my father would give me $1 bill. I would run to the store and buy him a pack of smokes, and literally cost 50 cents, 60 cents, whatever, and take the pack back to him. There was no rules, no laws saying a kid couldn't buy a pack of cigarettes. It was normal. Fast forward up until I was 16 years old. In high school, they had a smoking area for us. You could literally go out, light a smoke, and have a cigarette. There was no rules of 16-year-olds couldn't buy cigarettes. Go back. Back then, my father would drive home drunk 2, 3 times a week. There was no laws against drinking driving, did not exist. I have no idea how many times my father called home and told my mother to come get him, and we'd go down to the corner or where he'd hit a pole or a tree, and next thing you know, we'd be pulling out ropes and hooking up his car, and cops would show up and give us a hand. That's right, the cops would show up and give us a hand. It was not against the law to drink and drive. That didn't come till much later. And it was considered the norm. My father would sit outside a bar with my mother. He would go in and drink for 10, 12 hours, and we would sit in the car waiting for him. My mother would go to the corner store, get some chips and chocolate bars, which was a treat because we never had them that often. And we'd literally sit sometimes 8, 12 hours in the vehicle waiting for him to finish drinking and come out. Does that make my dad a bad guy? If I just told you that, it probably would. But you have to understand, my dad's not perfect. He's a human being. There's not a tool I don't know how to use because of my dad. We hunted, we fished, we trapped. We did it all. And if it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't know how to do any of it. My dad would discipline hard. He'd use a belt. Unheard of nowadays, right? Things were different then. And to say my dad was wrong, I can't say that. I mean, I don't have a criminal record. I ran two businesses. I came up pretty good. I've done all right. And that's contributed to my dad and to my mother. Without them, I would not be who I am today. You can see that in today's society with young men that are being raised by women with no father. I mean, they're a bunch of pussies. Sorry, but it's true. They really don't know any tool. They don't know anything. They know how to play a video game. They know how to sit at home. But they don't know anything about life. And when they have to venture forth at 18 or 19 or 20 and leave home and actually have to make money and support a family and be a man, the majority of them cannot do it nowadays. I see people that are 40 years old still living at home with mommy and daddy. And I'm just shaking my head. How is that possible? I left home at 16. Um, Now, I could see if you're living at home and you're going to college, university, you're going for something big, and it's going to take you a good 5, 6 years. I mean, it's cheaper. I mean, definitely do that. I mean, if it's going to make your life and your income a whole lot better. My parents never had those high paying jobs. You know, most of my life in the beginning back then, when I was 16 years old, most of my lives were laboring jobs. Most of my jobs were shit jobs. It's just the way it was. So I think back then, because we didn't have video games, we didn't have a lot of this other stuff, I think it made us tougher, made us stronger. You can believe what you want. You can hate on the people back 30 years ago, like, oh my God, they drank and drive. Oh my God, they did these things. It was a different time. Just like it was a different time back in the 60s, back in the 40s, back in the 30s. You know, you go way back to the 30s and the 20s, a man could beat the shit out of his wife and nobody would say nothing. It was never heard of. Nobody said anything. Which I think is kind of funny when women say, I wish I could go back. No, you don't. Believe me, things were a whole lot different. And it wasn't for the good. We seem to be getting better, but at the same time in society, we seem to be, our men are turning into pussies. And that's that. I could even see a time to where, when maybe with the next generation, where they start sending their kids to some type of group to make their sons tougher because they don't have the men there doing it, or teaching them basic tools or how to fix things or how to fix a door. I even had heard about a YouTube channel where a guy would change a tire and he was getting millions of views because a lot of young kids don't have a dad showing them how to do it. Sad. The things we take for granted are disappearing. The things that I had when I was younger. Now, was it more dangerous in my life? Oh, hell yeah. Yes, and sometimes it really sucked. But I think it made me a better man. Now, you can object. I have my opinion. You can get triggered. But that's the way it was 30 years ago. You can't change history. I can't change history. Would I wish I never had a dad? Hell no. My dad was amazing. My dad taught me so much. It wasn't perfect. But I don't think anybody really is, are they? And there's no rule book that when you become a parent it says, here you go. You do the best you can. And you're a human being and you want the best for your kids, and I'm sure my parents wanted the best for me. I didn't end up on the street homeless. I didn't end up starving. I'm not on drugs, never done drugs. I don't drink. I don't smoke now. It's been 8 years since I quit. My life gets better with each year. I have no regrets. But one thing's for sure, if you're getting triggered because you're a young guy and you want to look at an old man and act like the story he's telling you is not true, then how are you going to learn? How are you going to expand your mind? Because believe it or not, that education that's locked up in that old man's mind just may save your life one day. You just might learn something. But the younger generation's too busy trying to figure out how to beat a level in a video game. There's more to life than a video game. Getting outside and doing things is a lot more fun than sitting in behind a screen. Just my point of view. I'll make some more videos of what happened when I was in my life 30 years ago if you want. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see some more. If not, this will be the last one. But if you want, I'll make some more and say, hey, I want to hear some more. I'll make some more videos. I don't care if it's one guy, and if I'm talking to one guy, that's fine. Because there's some crazy shit back there in my life you might want to hear about. And I lived, and I shouldn't have. At any rate, I'll catch you guys on the next one.